Welcome back to the Author's Edge. I am your host, Allison Lane, and I am here for you because I know why you're here. Because you need an edge. You might already be an author or you're on your way to publishing. But part of that requires you thinking bigger about where you're going. And we need to talk about a blind spot that most people keep tripping over on their path, whether speakers, executives, authors, entrepreneurs. They want visibility because they want to share what they know. They want to talk about their story, their novel, their method. They want to reach people who they can actually help and who are looking for them. Yet the fastest path to all of that is the very thing most of them avoid. Why? It's the stage. The stage isn't reserved for the most famous or the biggest platforms or the biggest names. It's reserved for the clearest. Clarity gives you speed. And most people don't know how to be picked because they don't know how to be clear. That's why Cam Beaudoin is here to help. Because Cam, you book people all the time, hundreds of speakers. And there's this quiet belief that the stages are meant for people who are further along, no matter how further along they are. But the truth is quite blunt, correct?
What you said there is like, it's clarity. How many people have you ever met who are like, I speak to everybody about anything, like whatever you want, I'll come in there and I'll speak to your students about like this, and I'll come speak to your corporate executives as another. And it's rooted in fear. That's really what it's about, because I don't want to sever an opportunity, because if someone's going to give me a free lunch to come speak at their school, I'm going to take that opportunity. So I love that idea. Like, clarity is everything. Don't need to be complex. Don't need to be creative. It's just, who do you speak to? What do you want to change? Go solve that problem and be bold about it, because there's opportunities everywhere to go and solve that type of problem, whatever it is. And like, it's been proven again and again, niches in the riches. I'm sure you've heard that one before.
Love that one. I love anything that rhymes.
Right. The deeper you can get into a niche and solve bigger problems, it's so much easier to market. It's so much easier to go and get up on stage and you say, oh yeah, your audience, they are the exact people that I can help solve this one very specific problem for. I don't solve all their problems, but this one thing, marketing, or this one thing around, I help those single moms in your audience. I'll help them with their time management or something like that. Not everything, just like one thing. So clarity is where it's at.
Clarity is where it's at. And yet the real challenge is that most people don't know how stages get filled. They don't know even how to start. They don't know what conference planners prioritize. They don't know why their pitch isn't landing. They assume they need to do more work. They need to be more ready or more famous or more polished. Because you talk to event planners every single day, you know what turns a decent pitch or like a mediocre pitch into a must-have. So tell us, when event planners are choosing a speaker, what are they looking for and how are we missing that?
So number one thing is, you must have some kind of contextual proof. What I mean by that, you're a published author, maybe that's a good one. Maybe you have logos of companies that you've worked at or helped out before. Maybe you've got a New York Times bestseller, Amazon awards, or something like that you've won. Maybe you've spoken at other big conferences before. This is all like the clout that you bring with you, because you know what an event planner really wants? They want to draw in more tickets. That's what they really want, right? If they can come and tell their audience, like, we've got this famous person, semi-famous, this person has over 2 million views on YouTube. Like, those are like numbers that they can rely on and say, that will probably draw the right type of audience into me. You got to get clout. You got to go and do the work, like that thing. In reality, if you want to get paid to speak, you have to get in there early. So CES, the big tech conference that happens every year in January, right now it's the end of 2025. We're recording this. They're booking speakers for 2028 right now. Think about it. If you want to get the $25,000 keynote opportunity to get up there and speak, you're, by the way, $25,000, you're like bumping heads or bumping shoulders with celebrity speakers at that point. Maybe not A-listers, but like definitely B-listers at that point. Like, you've got to be able to pull in an audience that is bigger than say, the stunt double of Matthew McConaughey or something like that. They're recognizable like that. Like, you've got to be able to pull in something even more because you're up against people who've hiked Everest with half a lung or something like that. There's real competition at that level. It's about getting in early, being persistent, demonstrating and showing clout. And I got to be real. It's about putting video up online and showing that you can handle a crowd. If you really want to get paid to speak, if you really want to get out there and do that, then that's the destination. That's the North Star you got to get to.
That is a tall order. So, one, when someone tells you, I don't have that, or I'm not ready, those are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
What makes you think that they are? Or what tells you what's getting in their way? Because when they tell you they're not ready, maybe that just means they don't know how to deliver what you just said. Because what you just said, I interpret as in order to land the stages, you have to already be on the stages because you have to get the clout, but you get the clout by speaking. So it's like a chicken and an egg situation, which makes someone who hasn't done it saying, there's no way for me to do it. But you know that there is. Start with someone who needs to get there. What are they missing? And what are they thinking incorrectly?
There's two main paths to a stage. And number one is you get really good at one thing. Many authors, their book literally gets them booked on stages because they're able to communicate what's in their book to a wider audience. Because not everyone's going to read your 300-page book on productivity or something like that. So that's a very clear path. You said, I've written this book, and you can go then pitch just based on your book to event planners. Say, I wrote the book on this, because that's undeniable proof that you have done the work, because it's not an overnight thing. It's not an easy thing to do to get published, or like to have a book that's physical and say, hey, this is something that I've worked on and put effort into, and now you should hire me to speak on this topic to your audience. That's a very clear path. But to everybody else, get on video talking about your topic. You've just written a freaking book about that. 12 chapters is 12 months of content creation. And I know it's really freaky to turn on the camera and understand a little bit about lighting. And then like you have to train yourself to actually look at the camera while you speak and all these little things that kind of come up. But there is no better equivalent to a stage than sitting in front of a camera and speaking live. It's the same stuff. So turning on your camera and saying, okay, chapter 1 of my book is this. And you don't read out your chapter, but you summarize it and you talk about how it solves problems, or if you're maybe fixes people's mental state or things like that. Maybe what you can do is you could like just open that up and say, okay, today I'm talking about this and where I came up with the idea. If you can't talk to 20 minutes about your own topic, then maybe you don't know it well enough to be able to get hired on that stage anyways.
Oh my God, you're speaking to my heart. The other day, I was at an event and I keynoted this really large event that was 12 towns outside of Boston came together, and all these chambers of commerce. And there were authors there who was self-published and hybrid published. And then this one woman was asked over the intercom, tell us about your book. And it's the first question you've got to be able to answer. Tell us about your book. Her response was, ooh, that's hard. Mother clucker. No, that is not allowed. So yes, you do need to be able to talk about your book in a way that matters to other people. But back to speaking on stages, I find that people want to pitch what's actually in their book, which is nobody wants a lecture. We're not at class. And they also want the organizers to collaborate with them on what do you want it to be about. That is not their job. It's up to you. You need to know in advance. You don't want to start from scratch every time you're pitching conference A versus maybe like organization B. You want to know these are the 3 things that I talk about. Do some planning. You help people create positioning that's clear and that's elevated. Let's talk about just the positioning that someone needs to know and have in place. Sometimes that's the hard part.
We live in a really fun time, don't we? It's never been easier to gain access to information. So the thing is, the value of information in the past 3 years, 2 years since AI came out has really gone down, because I can get a base knowledge of anything I want now at the tip of my fingers at any length I want. So if that's all you have is I've got this information, then that's not enough anymore. You do not have enough to stand on, because whether they buy your book or not, to just get info that they could look on Wikipedia or ChatGPT, like that's not enough now. You have to get into solutions mode. If you read this book, this is the outcome, and I can help you get there. Many books out there, as we know, are published as lead generation tools. Like, I will sell my books that people want to come and hire me to consult. I don't have a problem with that. No problem. But you'd better know exactly who you want to draw in. Because again, if you're going in and you solve everybody's problem about everything, not everybody is Mel Robbins. Not everyone can say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up out of bed.
Yeah.
Not everyone can be Simon Sinek, 3 circles, and then you draw an arrow out and make millions of dollars. You're going to have more substance or proof or an undeniable body of work that says, here's the work I did to be able to get to this point. And as a result of that, you should know exactly what your ideal audience wants to hear about. Like, it always has to relate back to who is the avatar who's in that audience? What are the problems that they have? And if you know the organizer, you generally know who the audience is going to be. So you got to get to the point of knowing your audience through and through. You have to know their pains. Like, what is the problem that they wake up with that you can help solve? Like, you have to have words to articulate that faster than they do. And I think that all starts there. Everything starts there.
The first step, though, is removing yourself from being neck deep in the guts of your book, because people don't want to be read to, and they don't want you to have your talk be about your 7-point method, because that feels like a book report. One of the guests I had on The Author's Edge is a gastroenterologist.
Okay.
Not a sexy field. Maybe it is if you have IBS. And wrote a book that's a gigunda bestseller about gut health.
Cool.
Seriously, gut health. He's also megawatt corporate speaker. He's not talking about gut health. He's talking about how health fuels your mental health, fuels team culture. Corporations have budgets, and he's making a huge difference, because when people are ill, they're less productive. They don't go to work. They tap out. They quiet quit. And he thought bigger about his message. He did the work on his own, not because an organization came to him and said, we'd really love to help you translate your gastroenterology practice into what that could mean at Nike. It's an example of, you would think that his gut health message, that the AMA would say, can you come and speak to other gastroenterologists? But that's a mistake, correct?
Yeah. So what I hear from that is something that I learned when building social media content. There's a whole idea of transience. You must be able to move between different layers of expertise at will. What does that communicate? That communicates a deep expertise and knowledge of a topic. That is what it is. He must be able to go and speak at a PhD level, probably to his alma mater. Like, hey, you're that famous author guy. Come speak to our new students, our new grads. And he's going to speak to them at a much different level than at the very surface level of, let's talk about corporate well-being and maybe how your health relates to that. Oh, what health? Think of it like a funnel. Like, your most broadest knowledge at the top for this audience may be one type of thing, but your expertise is so deep down of how that all relates. That's rooted in storytelling. That's rooted in like knowledge transfer and all this kind of stuff. So that just goes back to the whole idea again of knowledge is everywhere now. Knowledge is not the problem. It's your ability to communicate the values, that the lessons that maybe you've learned to an audience in their problems. Because yeah, corporate America, they probably care about gut health. I think that's probably like something that would be pretty interesting to them. But how gut health relates to corporate America is like how that all, that's the bow that kind of gets neatly
right
for that. Yeah.
What I see with a lot of authors, or a lot of emerging authors and hopeful authors, that they have a body of wisdom, of expertise, and they want to pitch themselves based on their accomplishments, and have the person they're pitching translate their accomplishments into what that means. And what I urge people to do is to understand that's not anyone else's job but yours. You're the one who has to say, because of this, I am this. So instead of saying, I'm an attorney, you can say, I'm an advocate for the welfare of children across urban settings. And that helps get a sense of where you can do the most good. But you're the one who has to give yourself that one-liner.
Absolutely.
Which is not something that comes easy to people because it does feel uncomfortable. A lot of times they say, I'm not comfortable saying I'm an expert in this. Who else? There's not a expert stamp going door to door. Nobody's coming for you to give you a sash that says approved. How do you get people when people tell you they're not ready? What makes you think that they actually are, and how do you get them there?
That's tough because it's never been easier to feel like we've done a lot of work when we really haven't. It's never been easier, right? Going back to AI, I feel like I'm an expert because I've watched a couple of videos. Like, really, that is not expertise. That is not knowledge. I think we've all known or seen ads on Facebook or stuff like that of like, I promise this and I promise this. And like, when you dig a little bit deeper, you've never actually done any true work before around this. But to that person who is at that point where they've done deep, meaningful work, and yet maybe they don't realize that you don't need to do anything in private. Like, you don't need to grow in private. You could go and speak at your local chamber of commerce. You can go and speak at the Kiwanis Club. You can go and speak for free. Some people think speaking for free means for no money. And yeah, maybe there's no monetary value. I will guarantee that anyone who's listening right now, if I gave you a golden ticket and said, I will let you go speak at Microsoft, would you be interested? 99% of this audience is going to say, oh, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Give it to me. And I'm going to say, the only problem is it's going to be free. A good portion of the audience would still say yes to that. That's how you start getting stages. You go give free services. Hey, your HR team needs to know more about mental health for autistic developers. Holy moly. Do you think that might be relevant to Microsoft? Darn it is. And you think they wouldn't take a free offering for that? And then what you do, after you go and give it free to this one unit of HR, do you think they only have 10 people in HR in Microsoft? Hell no. They've got so many. They've got HR departments larger than some mid-sized companies. You can go in there and say, hey, if you got value from this, what do you think about that department over there? Could you introduce me to them? Then you can charge money for that. You can charge $10, $20, $30,000 because that becomes a training, that becomes a corporate event, that becomes a getaway, that becomes all these other kind of opportunities for you as a speaker. Speakers in general have this idea that speaking only means I'm going to get up like Tony Robbins and I'm going to go and speak in front of an audience of 30,000. But there are so many other things of what speaking actually means. And there's lots of money out there, like training sessions. Going back to the book, if you had a book written, you develop that into a training module that you could sell to companies. Like, you go and spend $1,000 in a nice studio, you go and spend $1,500 on a great videographer in one day. You could go and build your training materials from your book and sell that as a package. Oh, you can't afford my keynote service? Hey, how about you buy my book and all this training material as well? There are so many opportunities that you can get out there. You just got to be a little bit creative and find.
I love the creativity because a lot of these folks, they're not stopping what they're doing. They're still teaching at the university. They're still running a school system. They're still in the ER treating people who are walking in with all sorts of needs. They're not changing what they're doing. They're just expanding the ripple effect that they have in the world. And so they need this to be easy.
Yep.
One of the first things I say to people who want to write a book, they usually want to talk about their book. And I say, before we even get to that, we need to reposition you in your head, which starts with putting a stake in the ground so that you know who you are. We don't care what you're going to say until you can tell me who you are. And that starts with anchor content. Your essential author bio is the first thing that we know. Before you can tell us about your book, you have to be introduced to us. I've done this so many times with people that I have a template. It's actually available for free on my website. Go and get it. It's step by step how I build my own bio, and I keep everything in one document so it's easy to find. It's at lanelit.com/package. So if you're listening to this and you think, gosh, I haven't updated my bio in 15 years. Yeah, it's time. Go get that. Boy, this can really change someone's ability to fold speaking into their life.
Oh, yeah.
Correct? What does a sustainable booking engine look like for someone who's a thought leader, but also a practitioner or an educator?
I want to give some practical steps on the best thing you can do. When you are invited to speak, the best thing you can do is just do the following. Hey, I don't want anyone to take notes today. I'm going to give you all of my notes from this presentation today. All you got to do is just scan the QR code up here, put your name and phone and email in there, and I will get that to you. Then you put one checkbox at the bottom there that says, do you book speakers? You just create a lead list. You're welcome. Nobody wants to take notes, really. And you don't know if they're taking notes, they're distracted on their phone or stuff like that. Best thing that you could do. You're going to get 30, 40 leads every single time you go and speak. What I really believe is that people just don't understand like the base marketing things that you need to do to get speaking opportunities. Because if you just did that, the engine starts with one opportunity, put your phone name, email, and do you hire speakers? Then you just follow up with those people and say, hey, I noticed that you hire speakers. Do you have 15 minutes to talk within the next week? Then all of a sudden you've got this list of people who may or may not be interested in bringing you in to come speak. Then you can talk about, what did you like about my presentation? Are you open to a free opportunity? Can I come teach one team at your company? Stuff like that. There's different ways of doing this, but that's how the flywheel starts. It's not as complicated as you think it has to be. I'm going to give an example of a speaker that I think we all know or are familiar with, Dr. Jordan Peterson. Whether we agree with his policies or his comment, put that aside for a moment. But what did he do? He started recording all of his lectures and he put them up on YouTube. He got some following. Then he wrote 12 Rules for Life, got more famous like that. He was still teaching when that book was launched. He still had a practice, a psychology practice at that time too. Then he became internet famous and things started to snowball and he got sick and all these other kinds of things happened with that. But what did he do? He just made himself available and shared his knowledge willingly. You can go and see all of his lectures online, all from the University of Toronto. They're all there. They're all just available to you. It's very hard to dispute that. How else do you think your speaking career starts is when you can speak on your topic at length and demonstrate skill. So continue the funnel, learn some marketing basics, and that's how the engine starts.
So don't wait and make it this one big hill to climb. Start in the comfort of your own basement and put it out for the world. I think that is the biggest challenge, is that people make it seem I'm going to train for the marathon because I'm going to do a marathon. Like, instead, run around the block.
Sure.
What is one small step someone can do today to make their pitch immediately improved so that it can shine to the person who gets to say yes or no?
Well, done is better than perfect. Always. So you're going to go on LinkedIn. You're going to go and find 5 to 10 people that you would love to connect with, who would be your ideal client, and you're just going to say hello to them. And it's going to feel super awkward, and you're not going to know what to say. It's going to give you a lot of valuable feedback as to what maybe they want to hear about. And if you go in there with an idea of, tell me what problems that you have and how someone in my position can solve those problems. Like, we are so afraid of looking stupid. An immediate way to improve your pitch is actually to get it out there. So many people don't even pitch. They just go out there and they assume, like, oh, I wrote a book, you should bring me in. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Slow down and stuff like that. Go to Canva, put your book on a page, put a nice picture on there, go get some nice headshots and say, here's 3 things I can talk about, even if it is just based on the book. Don't talk about your whole book, but here's 3 solutions that I have. Make it a 1-pager. We call a speaker kit. Start sending it out to people. One easy thing that you can do. They're called media kits. They're called one sheets, things like that. Like, you got to start thinking about that, but it doesn't have to be perfect, because the first 100 outreaches that you do are going to suck and they're going to fail and you're not going to get anything. But if you can do 100, I guarantee you that we're going to have a different conversation after you get to 100.
You're closer to readiness than you think. And you just need to understand you do have to start, but getting booked isn't luck.
Yep.
It's about you taking control, being clear, positioning yourself, doing it, and improving. Not over years, but improving, seeking help from somebody like you, Cam, because you offer a done-for-you service and you help people. We'll put the link in the show notes too.
Nobody remembers that Tony Robbins. Go on YouTube and go look from the videos of him from 17 years ago. They were in these like library basements with 4 people in the audience. Everyone starts there. We're so afraid to look foolish when nobody knows it. I think one of the easiest things that anybody could do right now is while you're writing your manuscript, while you're writing your first draft, turn the camera on, go to YouTube, go to Instagram, go to TikTok, turn on live stream. Hey, my name is Cam. I'm writing a book right now. And here's some things I'm going to be talking about today. Because you know what that does? It's through conversation that we get clarity. I do podcasts because it allows me to communicate more clearly about what I do. It's the person who sits there and never speaks about their topic, never shares it, never articulates it, never hears how the words sound in their mouth. That is the most muddied up there. That's why so many influencers are writing books, because they've already spent 8 years talking about stuff on YouTube. Now that's really easy because they've already got the body of knowledge.
Talking it through gives you clarity, and you're not just noodling it. You get to witness the result. Either people are clear or they have questions, and you have to explain it in a different way that's even clearer.
Yeah.
And then that gives you the opportunity to trash the first way. If that didn't land, don't say that again.
Yeah, exactly. And you can tell it yourself too. You don't even have to post it. I say that very easily. Some people get so hung up on like their camera and how they look, and maybe my hat's like this or whatever. People get so hung up on how they look on camera.
Yeah.
Okay, don't post it. Just record it and watch it again. Watch yourself ramble for 20 minutes. And you're like, I ramble. I sound terrible. Is that how I sound? Is that how I sound in public? Man, I got to go fix that. That is the reality of the world of speaking. Like, you get better by watching yourself do it more, and by articulating better, and by yourself.
The big message here is your message belongs on a stage, not just in a book, not just delivered one-to-one. If you want to expand, you have to be the one to fuel that engine. No one is coming for you, and you can do it. And Cam's giving you it step by step. But start acting like someone who can be picked, who gets picked, because you will get picked, but you have to step forward. You have to take the action. Cam, how should people find you?
The best place to find me, go to YouTube, Cam Beaudoin. Just easily find me there, or The Frequent Speaker. I share all this stuff just publicly and openly on YouTube, because you never know who's going to find me there. And that's how I get booked too.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to see where you get posted, where you get pitched, where you land. And I want to make sure that when you do, send me a note, DM me wherever you are. You can DM Cam too. You tag him. Let us know if this firm talking to drives you to action. We want to know, because we want to celebrate you and support you. You can do this. You really can. And you're the only one who can do it.